Hello dear students, welcome back to the NCRT Science class of 10th standard. Dear students, we have completed the previous class, we have completed the topic how do organisms reproduce. That is very important and most important topic for examination week. Here, dear students, in the previous class we have studied about a lot of terms regarding the reproduction. Dear students, basically we have studied the reproduction process. The meaning of reproduction: reproduction is the process of production of young ones which are similar to their parents is called as the reproduction. Dear students, and also we have studied the reproduction. During the reproduction, what is going on. See what happens for the reproduction. It needs the DNA material. For the reproduction, it needs the DNA to transfer from the parents to their children. The DNA, whatever the DNAs are present in the mother parental body, that has to be copied to the children. That is, there we have studied the copying of DNA very detailed. That is, the DNA materials which are present in the chromatin network, the chromatin network which is present in the chromosomes, the chromosomes which are present in the nucleus, nucleuses are present in the cells. Isn't it? The cells undergoes the cell division, and meanwhile what happens? The division of chromosomes are also going on, and by this one what happens? Genetic material which also gets divided, and by which what happens? The DNAs are getting copied, and that copied DNA, the copied cell, that will transport to the parent, to their children. Then children, they will get birth which are having the similar character as that of the parents, because the characters are carried by the chromosomes that we have studied. The characters are carried by the chromosomes, and these chromosomes are obtained from the parental chromosomes. Yes. The next, dear students, from the parental chromosome it is obtained. That's why we have studied the detail about the copying of DNA, how the copying of DNA is going on in the cell. And next, after this one, dear students, we have studied the concept of variation, how the variation is going on in the living organisms. Variation means the changes in the living organisms along with the time is called as the variations. See what happens in the variation. In case of variation, the living organisms are getting the varied or the different characters. The living organisms build the different character that is not present in the parental generations. See how, see for example, we have studied one example, that is, we are not surviving in the Antarctica region in the extreme climatic cold condition. We will not survive. But what happens when we go to the Antarctica and all? Slowly we will try. Some people, they are having a weak immunity and weak stamina and all, they may die, and the people with the high stamina and all, they may survive. They will get a trouble, or they will get some difficult to survive. Even after that one, they slowly adapted to survive in that cold climatic condition. It means they, in their body, they will get some little changes, that is variations. Isn't it? The variation occurs in the body, the changes in the body to survive in the changed climatic condition. Such changes are called as the variation. And also one more good example of variation, we can say that we are studying that human being gets birth from the monkey. That is, monkey to man, it is by the variation. Yes, the changes in the monkeys that leads to the birth of the human being and the origin of, or the arrival of human on the earth, that we have studied. The next topic is what, dear students, the mode of reproduction. The mode of reproduction, there are two modes of reproductions are there. The first one is asexual mode of reproduction. The second one is sexual mode of reproduction. In case of asexual mode of reproduction, the young ones are produced without mating male and female gametes. The asexual reproduction is a mode of reproduction in which an young one is produced without mating male and female gamete. Yes. The next, dear students, in case of asexual reproduction, the sexual reproduction means the process of production of young ones by mating male and female gamete is called as the sexual reproduction. Without mating male and female gamete is called as the asexual reproduction. In next, dear students, in case of asexual reproduction, again of different types. The first one is in case of plants and animals commonly going on, that is all the different modes are there in asexual reproduction. That is mainly going on in all the organisms, in different organisms we can say. See, first one is fission. fission. That in case of fission, what happens? The process of reproduction in which a cell or a body divides into the number of pieces. That type of the reproduction is called as the fission. In case of fission, break down into number of two or more pieces, that is called as the fission type of reproduction. Then in case of fission type of reproduction, again there are two types. The first one is binary fission and second one is multiple fission. If a single cell or the single body divides into two equal halves, then we can say that's binary fission. Bi means two, binary fission. If a single body divides into the number of pieces, then we can say that multiple fission, isn't it? Fission over the next fragmentation. Fragmentation is a type of asexual reproduction in which a body gets matured and divides itself into the number of same fragments or equal fragments. These fragments, they will turn to the individual. That type of reproduction is called as a fragmentation reproduction. Yes. Then after this one, the budding. Budding, what happens? Bud means a bulge will appears on the mother body. Bud will appears on the mother body when the mother body gets matured. The bud will also undergoes growing, and when bud will grow more, that will be cut out from the mother body and turns to a new individual. Isn't it? The type of reproduction is called as the budding. Then after this one, dear students, the regeneration. Regeneration in case of regeneration, what happens? The cut part of the individual starts to grow. Regenerate. The cut part of the individual starts to regrow. Suppose, for example, regrow is occurs in human being. What will happen? Suppose, for example, a arm will cut out. See, to the body, arm will starts to grow. If arm will cut out from the body, to the arm, cut arm, the body will grow. To the body, arm will grow. If such cases occurs, then we can say that the regeneration is occurring. It is a type of asexual reproduction in which the cut part of the body, first body divides itself into the number of pieces. These number of pieces undergoes regrowing, and that will turns to the new individuals. If hind part is cut out, the front part will be grow. If front part is cut out, the hind part will be grow. Yes, like that the reproduction is going on in the different living organisms. That is the regeneration is going on in the planarium. Yes. Then, but the binary fission in that alga is a name. No, that is binary fission we can see in the amoeba and bacteria. Then multiple fission in plasmodium. Yes. Then after this one, we have studied the first one, binary fission, multiple fission, and budding, that is going on in yeast cell. Yes, that examples also we should have in mind. The next, dear students, the budding, that is also going on in hydra. Then after the last one, that is vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation, you know, the veg means the plant part, the reproduction which is going on with the help of plant part, that is called as a vegetative reproduction. In case of vegetative reproduction, see what happens, any part of the plant body is involved for the reproduction, for example, and those plants shows the reproduction, the vegetative reproduction in which they will not bear the seeds. The plants which will not bear the seeds, those only shows the vegetative reproduction. In case of vegetative reproduction, again three types are there. See, leaf vegetative reproduction, branch vegetative reproduction, the stem vegetative reproduction, root vegetative reproduction. Leaf vegetative reproduction means here in case of it is a type of vegetative reproduction and asexual reproduction in which the leaf part is undergoing the regrowing, then the leaf part is using for the continuation of generation or to grow a new plant, that is called as the leaf vegetative reproduction. And in case of the leaf vegetative reproduction, that is bryophyllum is a good example for the leaf vegetative reproduction. Then after this one, the stem part, sugar cane is the stem part. We are using this stem in the sugar cane for the reproduction or for the continuation of sugar cane generations. Then next, rose, we are using the stem part to continuation of generations. Then after this one, we are using the root part, that is in potato and onion. There we are using the root part. These are the root parts that we are using for the continuation of generations of the for the new growing plants. To grow the new plants, we are using the such parts, that is called as a root vegetative reproduction, we can say. Then after this one, dear students, we have studied the last one, that is stem, root and leaf over. Yes, stem part in sugarcane we are using. Next, dear students, the sexual reproduction in plants. See, sexual reproduction in plant is going on through by a reproductive organ, that is called as the flower. Flower is a reproductive part of the plant, or the flower is a reproductive organ in the flower is a reproductive part in the plants. Yes. Next, dear students, and these flowers produce the seeds. Seeds are the reproductive part. Yes, a reproductive product of the plant. The next, dear students, in case of plants, the flower is a reproductive part, and in case of flower, there are two types of flowers are there. In case of flower, first in the flower, the male and female reproductive organs are present. Male reproductive organs and female reproductive organs are present. Male reproductive organs are called as the androecium, and female reproductive organs are called as the gynoecium. Then androecium and gynoeciums are present, and both male and female reproductive organs are present in the same flower, and also in some flowers male reproductive organ is separate, is present in different one flower, and female reproductive part is present in another flower, isn't it? On that basis only, on the basis of the presence of the reproductive parts in the flower are classified into two types. The first one is unisexual flowers, the flowers which contains either male or female reproductive parts, either androecium or gynoecium. Such flowers are called as the unisexual flowers. The flowers which contains both the sex organs, for example, both male and female gametes, female reproductive parts, that is such plants are called as the bisexual flowers. The examples for the bisexual flower is hibiscus. And for the unisexual flowers, that is cucumber and pumpkin. These are or papaya also. That is example for the unisexual flowers. In that flower, the male and female reproductive parts are present in different flowers. Yes. Then after this one, dear students, we have studied the structure of the flowers, detail, and the male reproductive part contains the two parts, that is the anther and filaments. That is called as a stamen. Total male reproductive part is called as a stamen, that contains anther and filaments. The anther produces the crystal-like structure, that is called as the pollen grains. And the female reproductive part consists in the flower, the stigma, style and ovary. The stigma is having the sticky surface, and pollen grains are produced in the male reproductive part, that is called as in the anther. And these pollen grains gets transferred from anther to the stigma, and due to the sticky surface that will be takes on the surface of the stigma, and what that process we can say the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma is called as the pollination. The transfer of pollen grains from anther, that is male reproductive part, to the female reproductive part, the stigma, is called as the pollination. There are two types of pollinations are there. The first type of pollination is self-pollination. The second one is cross-pollination. Self-pollination means the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of same flower, within the same flower, that is going on in the bisexual flower. The self-pollination is going on in the bisexual flower, who is having both the sexes. Then in case of unisexual flowers, see what happens, the cross pollination is going, the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of different flower is going on, that is cross pollination we can say. Then after the pollination, what happens, the pollen grain forms a pollen tube that will run in parallel to the style of the female reproductive part, and that will goes to the oovules which are present in the ovary, and that will fuses, and through this pollen tube male transfers the genetic material through the pollen tubes, and that will be fuses with the female the genetic materials of the female and forms the seeds, and whatever the soft part of the flower that will be present, that is in the form of petals, sepals, stigma and anthers, filaments, that will be withered out after the fertilization. See what happens, the whatever the fertilizer after fusion of male genetic material with the female genetic material, that forms the seeds. Then the ovary turns to the fruits, and next the seed turns to whatever the ovum fertilized egg, that will turns to the seeds. That we have, I am revising once again. The next, dear students, after this one we have studied the sexual reproduction in human. In human, the sexual reproduction is going on, that is for the sexual reproduction in human, it needs the three components. The first one is maturity, the second one is the reproductive part, the third one is reproductive cells. Isn't it? The reproductive, see, maturity, see, we have studied the different changes in both male and female, and common changes both in male and female. Isn't it? Separate changes, whatever the changes occurs at the puberty, we have studied. The in case of male, the voice becomes cracker. In case of female, voice becomes melodious. In case of male, facial hairs will grow. In case of female, the breast will grow more. Then next, in case of male, what happens, the hairs on the chest will grow. In case of female, that will not grow. And then we have studied the Adam's apple will grow in the male, and in female that will not occur. Then after this one we have studied in case of male, the penis starts to erect at all. Then in case of female, the menstruation will starts. Then after this one, common changes, the sweating and oiling on the pimples will appear both in male and female. And next, both in both bodies, what happens, both in male and female, the hairs will grow under arms, and also the hairs will grow around the genital organs, and the area around the genital organs becomes darkened. And such changes we have studied in the previous class. And also this also the fertilization process, how the fertilization process is going on in male and female, and male reproductive part and female reproductive part separately we have studied. The male reproductive part consists of the testis, ovary, and male reproductive part system consists testis, the sperm duct, and a penis. Isn't it? Pair of testes are present that produces the sperms, and that will be delivered through the delivery organ, that is called as the penis, into the female reproductive part, into the vagina. Then female reproductive part consists of a pair of ovaries, fallopian tubes, uterus, and cervix and vagina. Isn't it? These are the parts of the female reproductive part, female reproductive system. And ovary produces the eggs alternatively every month, and that egg moves through the fallopian tubes and gets fertilized if the sexual intercourse occurs. Then if it is not occurs, then it will be removed out with a layer of the whatever the layer is prepared in the inner wall of the uterus in the form of bleeding and all. Then if the fertilization occurs, the fusion of sperm and the egg going on in the fallopian tubes, and the fertilized egg that will turn to the zygote. The zygote will implanted on the inner surface of the uterus, and it will turns to a embryo. Embryo turns to the baby or the fetus. Isn't it? After the 32 weeks, what happens? After 42 weeks, 52 weeks and 9 months, the delivery occurs, or the delivery baby occurs. The next, what happens after this one, dear students? After this one, we have studied the reproductive health, the different types of reproductive health that is going on. It means the sexually transmitting diseases we have studied, different types of sexual transmitting diseases, and also we have studied the contraceptive methods. How to prevent the contraceptive method means how to prevent the unwanted pregnancy by using the different precautions, by using the condoms on the penis, and in case of female, the unwanted pregnancy can be prevented by wearing the copper teeth. Yes, these are the two methods by which, and the different methods are there, that is chemical methods, mechanical method, and next surgical method. Mechanical method includes the condoms and copper T, that is wearing on the penis. The condom is wearing on the penis, and copper T that will be inserted in the vagina. Then the chemical methods, that is by taking the drugs orally, or the pills, we can say pills orally, to change the hormonal secretions. By changing the hormonal secretions, with the help of the chemicals or the pills, we can say. Then after this one we are studying the surgical method. There are two surgical methods are there. That is here the different the methods in which the sperm duct or the oviducts can be blocked or by cutting down. That is called as the surgical methods. In the surgical there are two surgical methods are there. The first one is vasectomy. The second one is tubectomy. So the vasectomy means the cutting down of the vas deferens or the sperm duct in male to block the flow of sperm through this penis. That is called as the vasectomy. And next in Hindi we can say nasbandi. Then next in case of female we can say that that is tubectomy, the blocking of fallopian tubes, isn't it? That is called as the tubectomy, that we have studied in the previous class. Now come to the that all I have revised within that period, within that short time. And next now we are going to study the exercise. For that you should have to open the textbook. Now see the textbook. See very first question. That is, let me to see that is sexual reproduction takes place through budding in. Option A, they have given the options. Sexual reproduction takes place through budding in. Option A, amoeba. Option B, yeast. Option C, plasmodium. Option D, leishmania. The budding is occurs in yeast. The correct answer is B, yeast. Yeast. The second one is, see, which of the following is not a part of female reproductive system in human being? Ovary, uterus, vas deferens, fallopian tube. See, they are given four options in which we have to point out the part which is not a part of female reproductive system. That is, ovary is a part of female reproductive system, uterus is a part of female reproductive system, fallopian tube is a part of female reproductive system, vas deferens is a part of male reproductive system. That is, which is a not, they are asking which is a not, that is, the correct answer is C one, that is vas deferens. Vas deferens. The third one, anther contains option A, sepals, option B, ovules, option C, carpels, option D, pollen grains. That is, anther contains, option D is the correct answer. Pollen grains. Anther contains male reproductive cells in flower, that is pollen. Yes. Next, come to the fourth question. What are the advantages of sexual reproduction over the asexual reproduction? What are the advantages of sexual reproduction over asexual reproduction? Wait a second. See, next year what happens, dear students? Advantages of sexual reproduction over asexual reproduction. See what happens here, dear students? By the asexual reproduction, population can be controlled, first point. If by a sexual reproduction, what happens in case of sexual reproduction? The limited number of individuals will produce, and by which the imbalance, ecological imbalance will not occur. If asexual reproduction occurs in the human being, what happens? First I have to tell you, asexual reproduction occurs by the body cells. Sexual reproduction occurs by the gonads or the gametes, yes, or the sex cells. If asexual reproduction is more beneficial than, or the advantage than advanced than the asexual reproduction, because that asexual reproduction is going on by the body parts or the body cells, sexual reproduction is going on by the sex cells, by which ecological balance can be maintained, and next that can maintain the scarcity of food and all. Then and In case of sexual reproduction, the failure chances are less. In case of asexual reproduction, the failure chances may be more. Yes. The next, in case of sexual reproduction, that is, the sexual reproduction is going on by the meiotic type of cell division, where it is going on in the gametes. But in case of asexual reproduction, which is going on in the mitotic cell division is going on, which is going on in the body cells, isn't it? The next, fifth question: what are the functions performed by the testis in human being? In human being, the gonads are present. The gonads, they are present in pair, that is testis. They are present in pair. They are present outside the abdominal cavity or the body in a bag-like structure that is called as the scrotum. And he is going to ask, what are the functions performed by the testis in the human being? Testis produce the sperms. Testis produce the sperms. Not only it produces the sperms, along with that it produces the sex hormones that is called as the testosterone. The testosterone brings the different changes in the male body. For example, whatever the facial hairs will grow, the hairs on the body parts of the chest, and the hairs on the arms, hairs on the underarms, body becomes enlarged, voice becomes cracked. All these changes occurs due to the hormone that is called as the testosterone. Testosterone hormone. The testosterone hormone is secreted by the testis. Yes. The next, dear students, and along with that, the testis produces the sperm, which is a male reproductive cell and helps in the reproduction, and that sex cell involved in the sexual reproduction and by fusing with the female reproductive cells. These are the two functions of testis. The next, why does menstruation occurs in female? When a female reaches the maturity, or when a female reaches the age of 10, 12, 14 or 15, 16, see, a menstruation will begin. Menstruation means the release of egg or the production of egg from the ovary is going on. Will start. The production of egg in the ovaries gets started, and when the ovary starts to produce a matured egg, then we can say the menstruation. And that menstruation will be repeated, and every month or every alternative ovary releases the egg, and that egg will mature egg that will move through the fallopian tube. Before the fallopian release of egg, the uterus wall gets prepared with the layer of the nutritive or the spongy layer, to carry the pregnancy. If the fertilization not occurs, then what happens? The egg will be alive for one day, and that will be released out to the cervix and vagina, and along with the layer of blood. That is prepared in the inner wall, that will be break down and will be released out in the form of blood and all. That completes a menstruation cycle that occurs on every 28 days in the female. Yes, that you are right. The next video, students, draw an interpretive diagram of longitudinal section of flower. That we are drawn with the two hands, and also in the page number 134. On page number 134, the diagram is there. That also you should have to draw. The diagram of flower you have to draw. Yes. Next, we come to the 8th question. What are the different methods of contraception? Contraception means the prevention of unwanted pregnancy. The prevention of unwanted pregnancy is called as the contraception. The prevention of unwanted pregnancy is called as the contraception. There are 3 methods I have discussed in yesterday class, in the last class, that is the chemical method, mechanical method, and surgical method. Mechanical method includes the condom and copper T. That condom by wearing on the penis and copper T by inserting in the vagina. Then The second method that we have studied, that is chemical method, that is by taking the pills orally. Different drugs pills are there available in the market. By taking this one, that changes the hormonal secretions. By variation in the hormone or the changing the hormonal variation, what happens? They will not release the eggs at all at the time of the intercourses, by which what happens, or the egg may be destroyed, due to which what happens, we can control the pregnancy or the unwanted pregnancy. Then after this one, we have studied the surgical method, in which the blocking of the tubules or the pipes that carries the genital cells or the germ cells. See what happens by blocking. In case of male, the vasectomy is there. Blocking of vas deferens is called as vasectomy. Here what happens, blocking is going on by cutting down or the blocking with the thread and hole by the laser therapy. The blocking is going on, that is called as a vas deferens. And next, in case of female, the blocking of fallopian tube is going on, that is why it is called as the tubectomy. The next that we have studied, contraceptive methods, that we have to explain. And next, how are the modes of reproduction different in unicellular and multicellular organisms? How are the modes of reproduction? How are the mode for the reproduction different in unicellular and multicellular organisms? In case of unicellular organism, a single cell involved in the reproduction. In case of multicellular organism, the special site or the special part is involved in the reproduction. In case of unicellular organism, asexual reproduction is going on. In case of multicellular reproduction, the sexual type of reproduction may going on. And next, in case of unicellular organisms, see, a single cell is involved, and what happens here? The genetic material will divide into two equal halves. But in case of multicellular organisms, they may produce by the gametes. And in case of asexual, in case of unicellular reproduction, mitotic cell division is going on. In case of the multicellular organism, meiotic cell division may goes on. Yes. The next, the 10th question. How does the reproduction help in providing the stability to the populations of species? How does the reproduction help in providing the stability of the population? See, we in the beginning only we have studied the sexual reproduction, means the reproduction is a non-essential reproduction. We say non-essential, essential reproduction. Essential life process means which are necessary for the survival. If the respiration stop, what happens? Life will collapse. If reproduction stop, life will not collapse, but the generations of that life will collapse. Means the new young ones are not produced. At the end, what happens? The life will without the living beings. See how if the reproduction stops, the life on the earth will slowly goes on vanishing. Because of the presence of reproduction, the living organisms are present on the earth. If reproduction stops in all the living organisms, including plants and animals, what happens? The generation stops, then new young ones are not produced. If new young ones are not produced, what happens at the end at the end, what happens? The earth surface is totally free from the living things. Yes? That's why to maintain the living organisms on the earth, the reproduction is necessary. The next, dear students, what could be the reason for the adopting the contraceptive methods? What could be the reason for the adopting the contraceptive methods? See, if an individual is not ready physically, mentally, then the pregnancy at that time they doesn't want the pregnancy. See, to avoid the unwanted pregnancy, they have to take the contraceptive methods to prevent the pregnancy. Isn't it? To avoid the unwanted pregnancy, contraceptive methods are available to prevent the pregnancy. That's all about the today's class. Remaining we'll study in the next class.